Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco dishing on the movies. And we have another new release for 2019. It's called Glass. And it is the last part of a three-part movie series starring Bruce Willis as David Dunn, or the Overseer, which I never got that. Anyway, Samuel Jackson as Glass, and James McAvoy as Kevin Wendell Crumb. The other two movies in the franchise were Unbreakable, which starred Willis and Jackson, and Split, starring James McAvoy. In Split, McAvoy played Kevin Wendell Crumb, who had a multiple personality disorder in which one of the characters is not really a regular human being because he has superhuman strength and abilities. Already he has killed several people. Since the last movie, he has been on the run, terrorizing and killing more people. Bruce Willis is deathly afraid of water, but managed to be the only survivor on a terrible train wreck and has the strength to fight off McAvoy in his superhuman state. Samuel Jackson portrays an adult who causes massive human casualties, like that train wreck where Bruce Willis was the only survivor. However, Glass's bones break at the drop of a hat. Already during his lifetime, he has endured dozens of fractures in every part of his body. A clandestine group with the four-leaf clover as their symbol captures all three men and stuffs them away into an institute so they can study their special abilities, with Sarah Paulson as head researcher. She looks as deranged and nefarious as the group she represents, which we never really learn about. She and her group want to disprove the men's mistaken beliefs. They believe that they're mistaken, that they are not superheroes who possess extraordinary capabilities. What could go wrong? It makes the movie complicated and hard to figure out. For a while, I kept asking, what is the purpose of this movie? It's like these researchers wanted to get rid of anyone who's different and pretend like they didn't exist. And I guess I'll just let Marco take over.
You really didn't like this movie, and see,
It made me mad.
I heard all the bad reviews for the movie, and I keep my expectations low nowadays because I know that, like, with It Chapter 2 and all these other sequel movies, that the studios will always come in and ruin everything, and find some way to ruin it, like with Three from Hell, the way that Rob Zombie edited that movie for an entire year, and he edited it so much that it's barely a movie, and it's horrible. And it's like the same thing with this movie, where it's called Sequelitis. But I heard the bad reviews for the movie, and I thought, it couldn't be that bad. Like, it must be bad, but, like, is it really as bad as they're saying? Like, I just can't believe that after that incredible Split movie, which I still stand by, that Split is the best movie of 2017, I just can't believe that Glass is anywhere near bad as they're saying it is. And then I heard a spoiler months later because, like, I was really, really curious at least what happened. I couldn't find it anywhere online to watch it for free, and so I just listened to the spoilers because I don't really care. And then I heard the spoiler of what they did to the characters in the movie, and I said, I'm never going to watch that, and I'm certainly not going to spend any sort of money to watch it. and and so what happened was we didn't we didn't rent it on purpose because it came on Hulu. It came on there for free, and so I said, okay, it's on Hulu for free. I'll watch it this way, and then I watched it, and it was even worse than what they said it was. That how bad it is. That's how bad this movie is. The biggest problem with this movie is that it's like a completely different person made the other two movies. And like the person who made this movie didn't care about these characters, didn't know anything about these characters. It's like they just wanted to get this movie out there as quickly as possible to just get it over with. I mean, they with Split, they created a universe. And in this movie, a movie that came out 2 years later, they destroyed the universe. So they created and destroyed a universe within a 2-year span. How is that possible, Safi?
I just think it's ridiculous. I don't understand why anybody. In other words, it's like you made these two movies, then you make this one. And are you not proud of what you did? Do you not think that it's worth? You don't think these three actors, and even Sarah Paulson, who was not in the other two movies, but I mean, really, we never even, unless I just missed it because I was so mad, we never really learned about her organization.
No, we didn't.
They just brought it up. It's like, do people know what AAA is? This American Automobile Association. It was like people didn't know what that was, and they saw, I don't know what. Well, they have a logo, but let's say their logo was a shamrock, which is what this, or four-leaf clover, and you'd never heard of it, and you saw it, and it was on somebody's arm. I think it was I don't know.
It was a tattoo.
It was a tattoo on. So they showed us somebody's, and so they were doing something really bad. So you assume, and then you see this talking like she's speaking at a big meeting, or somebody else was speaking, and so this is some kind of organization. You never hear anything about it, the explanation. Did they just pop up out of nowhere? And when did they come? When did they pop up? And I mean, they captured all three men. They were, well, Bruce Willis was actually keeping an eye out for James McAvoy, which I didn't get what that was about either. Why was he doing that?
Because he had already killed all these other people, which again, we didn't get to see any of that cool stuff. I thought that this movie was going to be Bruce Willis and that girl from Split trying to track down James McAvoy.
Right.
And then they go to the asylum and try to get Mr. Glass to help them. And then we think that Mr. Glass is, and again, the stuff that they did with Mr. Glass in this movie was kind of cool. I really liked it, what they did with him, but I wish that they would have left him in the asylum all by himself to do that stuff, and then they would have had a separate story for Bruce Willis and James McAvoy, because what they did with these characters, it's like they baited you, because they said, oh, you want to see these two powerful characters fight? Oh, well, you're not going to, because we're going to lock them up in an asylum and remake One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with lesser actors. And so that's what this movie was. And I don't like the opening either. Like, a lot of people say, I like the movie until they were put in the asylum. I don't like the opening either, because I thought it was boring. And I thought that it was stupid because it was very dull and mediocre. And there's two things. We see them fight, and there's two fight scenes in this movie. It's not fighting, though. And what did they do, Safi? They have GoPros attached to their chests, and it's just them going, and they're both strangling each other, and they're straddling around each other like, like it's a 1930s movie. And that's what they do for both fight scenes in this movie. It's so uncreative, unoriginal, dull, boring, trash, horrible.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say, Samuel Jackson ended up, see, for the first half of the movie, and I really believe it was a whole half went by, he acted like he's in a medication stupor. And, I mean, I'm like, this isn't what he was like. Why is he acting like that? And they had him, well, they thought they had him, like, he was so heavily dosed that he couldn't even speak. And but then he starts, you find him popping up everywhere, and they're like, well, how is he able to do that?
Yeah, I really liked, as I said before, I really liked the stuff with Mr. Glass.
Oh,
How they thought that he couldn't talk, and he was just sitting there staring, and then there's a moment in the movie where he where he just reveals that the whole time that he's been like doing things, and that something's gonna happen, and he's in charge of it, and like that was really cool.
Well, they had him in, I don't know if you've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but and even other movies where somebody was forced to take like a pill, and it looks pretty thorough how they're able to see that they took them. Well, he had all of his medication. It was like 100 pills or something hidden under the wrapper or something on his wheelchair, like around one of the arms, the wheelchair. There's like a covering, so you don't have your arm on a hard piece of metal. You have it on, kind of like on a pad. And he showed, was it that he showed McAvoy?
Yeah, McElboy. I mean McAvoy.
He showed him the pills. He had stuffed them all. I mean, they're all laid out in rows, hundreds of rows of pills. I just couldn't believe it. And
well, the thing is that you have a mistake like that, and the lazy way that they get around of explaining why that he's been allowed to get away with that so long is that this is a secret group, and this isn't actually the government that's because
no,
the whole
it's
movie,
a private group.
the whole movie they lead on to tell you that they're going to turn them over to be put on trial, which it doesn't make any sense because
maybe for McAvoy, but
in Unbreakable, Mr. Glass gets arrested by the real police, and he's going to be put in a real asylum. In fact, I think they put in the movie Unbreakable, he's put in an asylum, and by the real government. But then in this movie, they act like he's been with the secret group in the secret asylum the whole time, and so like all these mistakes like that are just looked over because in all these other asylum movies, people always get caught doing things. Like people always get caught like, oh, did you really take your pill? I'm gonna make sure you did, and I'm gonna do this and this, and if you didn't take your pill, I'm gonna abuse you or something like that. But in this movie, it's like, oh, it's a secret group, and so they're stupid and they're secret, whatever. And well, Sophie, another thing that this movie does is that it ruins elements from the other movies, like Unbreakable and Glass. This movie makes me not want to watch Unbreakable, and this movie makes me not want to watch Split, because they take something like the fact that at the end of Split, after all she's been through, she has to go home to her abusive uncle, and so it's like the irony of that. And then in this movie, all of that drama at the end is explained away by her saying, he abused me, I told people, and he was locked up. Like, all that stuff at the end, it's just explained away with a stupid line. I locked him up. I told them about him. Horrible. Horrible. That ruins that part of Split. And then you have Bruce Willis. Oh my god, Bruce Willis shows up. Maybe he's gonna finally put on a good performance since the 90s. And then he's in this movie hardly at all. And Glass hardly at all. And when he is in it, he's basically sleepwalking.
Well,
I mean, it was embarrassing. Right, Safi?
I put he's practically mute and often wears a look of consternation on his face.
Yeah, consternation.
No, he's just like...
That's a very polite way of putting that he looks like a zombie.
Well, he doesn't show much range of emotion. He's almost one-dimensional. And, Samuel Jackson... And it's like, for Samuel Jackson, it was like half the movie, and then he came alive. Well, he was alive the whole time because he was doing little tricks in the background and doing things because he wasn't really in a stupor. He was just pretending to be.
But even when he wasn't saying anything, he still put on a better performance than Bruce Willis did the whole movie.
Yeah, I don't understand, is it because they are doing other movies that they think are more important?
No, he wasn't doing anything else.
And so maybe he thought he was supposed to do that. I don't know, but it wasn't. He was very one-dimensional, which is weird.
Bruce Willis is a lazy piece of shit actor.
Well, I don't
nowadays.
like that. I don't
That's what Bruce Willis is nowadays.
Well,
and for what he did to this movie, he doesn't ever deserve to work again, because this movie, and I almost got to saying that for all the people in this movie, because that's how seriously I take this movie, because they acted like, oh my god, Unbreakable and Split, this was always the plan. This was a plan ever since the early 2000s. And then when this movie comes out and you see what they decided to do with these characters, it's just sickening.
They just threw them in the trash.
Yeah, they did. They killed them all.
And McAvoy,
for no reason.
He really basically kept up his character through the whole movie, and they let him because he's so good. Well, I call it prattling. You have to look that up. But what they did was, to keep him in check, they had this light, and it looked like a light at a baseball field. So at nighttime, in order for the players to be able to see, they have these special lights, like at a high school baseball field or a college baseball field. And every time he was getting out of control, it looked like he was going to attack somebody, they start flashing these lights, and it would make him turn into one of his other characters. So he prattled during the entire movie, and it was really good in every single character voice. And then he even got into his monster look, and he even, he changed his appearance kind of, so he stayed in character. But I guess what irritated me, they killed him all at the end. This isn't, not doing a separate spoiler alert. It's all, then there's not even much to tell. There's not even much of a story.
There is to talk about, because you have those two other movies.
Well,
and they took all these elements from the other movies and they ruined them.
Well, but here they have a franchise going. I mean, compare this to Marvel or DC. I know this is different, but it's still something that could have continued for a few more movies maybe, and it's like they just threw it in the trash. They killed all three people off, and I don't think it was that dramatic either. It
was horrible.
It was like drowning a puppy, and what did they do to James McAvoy? They shot him.
They shot him a couple of times.
And Glass, he got
James McAvoy attacked Glass after Bruce Willis reveals the stupid, convenient plot secret to him. he crushes Mr. Glass.
And he doesn't have, like you said, his bones are very, I don't know what the
I
deal is.
I did not like how Mr. Glass was in a wheelchair the whole movie, because you know, I mean, his bones are very breakable, but the thing is that the reason why he had the wheelchair and Unbreakable is because of an incident where he was walking all alone in public, and he tripped and fell down stairs, and he was all alone, and he didn't have any way of calling for help, and so then they put him in this wheelchair, and so, but in this movie, I mean, he has no reason to be in a wheelchair. Like,
Well, I wondered about that, but I
come
thought
on.
maybe I just didn't remember.
I mean, they threatened to break his legs with the flashlight. One of the guards, who's abusive, they do a great scene where they trick you, and he drops it on his legs, but then he catches it, and it was that
Right
was a
before
great
it hits.
scene. Yeah. But then there's two things I wanted to talk about. Number one, the Beast in this movie, and now if you don't know what the Beast is, it's basically James McAvoy's most ultimate form, where he transforms into a beast-like figure.
And it isn't just talking or thinking, it's doing, and physically, his appearance physically changes.
And bullets absorb into his chest, and they just bounce off, or they just fall out. And in this movie, the Beast is turned into a huge, I'm not gonna say the word, but he's turned into a huge wuss, and he's basically like just that. I mean, in Split, he was terrifying as the Beast. I'm not saying like terrifying as like I was scared. I'm just saying terrifying as in they really made him into a scary, monstrous figure that you would be frightened of. And in this movie, it's basically just James McAvoy but muscular. And a lot of that has to do with they showed him in the daytime, but the thing is that even though he was in the daytime, if he would have killed, I mean, they had this whole team of people, and if he had just killed all of them, then maybe I would have said something differently, but they just really, really ruined it with the Beast. And then number two, speaking of number two, this movie, number two, I forgot what I was going to talk about. You go ahead, Sophie.
I was just mainly angry. First of all, I didn't know what the purpose of the movie was. And I thought it was, if whatever it wasn't very strong or very creative. And then they killed it off by killing everybody, and it wasn't like, I hate to make this comparison, but the Avengers, the last movie, you have some pretty dramatic dying scenes, a few, not very many, but still, you just have three characters there. They had tons, so a little bit harder for them, but you have three. And it was kind of like Marco said, it was like a fizzle. And the big thing that bugged me, because I'm not really into violence, but is that they just got rid of they weren't very creative, and then they put this movie on. I don't know what it was supposed to be, what the purpose of it was, and then they kill the characters off, and those are really good actors. I mean, I know Mark was complaining about Bruce Willis, but you know, they had the potential of doing a good character, but the other two were obviously James McAvoy.
No, all of them are good actors except for Bruce Willis.
Well, but they just threw them away, like what they did, almost like what they did before is meaningless. And I'm thinking, like, do these people have something better to do?
Yeah, that's what it
I
seems
really
like.
don't like that. I don't understand. You know, there are people out there who want to make movies who are really, they want to do it, and they may not have the money or the people to back them, you know, like people they know, and you know, it's like someone you know, and they can't do it because of people like this who get to make these movies, and then they just throw them in the trash.
Yeah, this movie's
And I don't
a
like
trash
that.
movie.
That's not fair. It's not fair to those actors who are, and for and we get to see their work when they do a good job. We get to see their fine work. I mean, McAvoy, how many movies is he going to play where he's like 20 or more characters? And he did every one, and he did them. They're all separate, distinct personalities. It was really good acting, and we don't get to see that ever again. I just think it's a terrible waste, and I don't like it, and it makes me really mad. So anyway, I think we should do our reviews unless you want to point out anything else. It's just a bad movie. Sorry.
Well, I remembered, I wanted to say, and then they tried to do this teaser at the end of the movie. Well, it was like a teaser to where they were like trying to say that other superpowered people existed. And it's like, I don't give an F about those people. Oh, apparently they're hiding because they're scared.
What are they going to do? Make a new movie?
And
these other three characters are dead. So, I mean, you just kill everybody off, and it's obvious and known.
Oh, God, sorry.
That's just dumb. I don't like dumbness.
But it's like they tried to make you excited. But it's like, I don't give an F about these possible new characters. I care about the ones that you just killed off and ruined and just sloppily ended for no reason.
Well, that's what they talk about in movies and books, plays. They talk about, when you talk about characters, you're making a character someone that people will care about. And if they're very superficial and one-dimensional, or they made him really good and then they just kill him off for like nothing. I mean, it wasn't even a good story, and it's just irritating, and it's wasteful and disgusting.
Yeah,
really makes me mad.
But actually, this movie, even though it's in my top 5 worst of the year so far, I would watch this again for the performances. But still, remember how negative I was with Dr. Sleep? Dr. Sleep is 1,000 times better than this movie. And so there you go. That's how bad this movie is. It's just that I'm not very angry about it because everyone else already destroyed this movie. And the guy who wrote and directed this movie said that the reviews made him cry. And so I'm glad that they made him cry because
damn bad.
He deserves it for how he destroyed these characters and
destroyed the franchise. Why they wouldn't even feel guilty about it? Can you imagine J.K. Rowling killing Harry Potter and all of the gang? I mean, they talked about this. Each time a new movie came out, someone's gonna die. Or something, and people got really upset and nervous, like, who's it going to be? Can you imagine if she killed everybody off at the 3rd book and then it was over? There were no more movies, no more books. People, I mean, look what all they would have missed.
But
that's ridiculous.
But it would have been an original idea if they did that, Sophie.
Yeah. And what does that even mean? Original idea equals what? Something that's good or something that's bad that you just think of at on the spur of the moment, and it's just something that it's kind of like people talk about students and professors in university, how they're up in their ivory tower and they don't have practical ideas because they're so into their studies that they kind of forget what's real and how to make things practical and put what they know into something that's real and applicable to helping people or helping society. Well, it's just like this. The idea or ideas, whatever it was, because we never did find out what it really was about, except you have this group, they don't like weird people, so they're going to study them, and then they're going to get rid of them. So now either going to kill them, or they're going to say, well, the government, or we're going to put you on trial, and then they'll put you to death. So what's the difference? They're either going to kill them themselves, or they're going to make it to where they get executed. And I don't understand why Bruce Willis and Glass who weren't out there really like striking people and hitting them to death like this other guy.
No, they made it up that their plan the whole time was to kill them, I guess.
Yeah,
So
because they're
basically,
different.
the whole movie was pointless.
It's just pointless. So anyway, I think we should just do our food
Well,
review.
it's just funny how negative you're being compared to how negative I usually am. Like, usually, Safi is the overly positive one, and then I'm a really negative one. But this episode, it's more of Safi not liking this movie.
Well, I just don't like. I don't like people who destroy something that could have been good and cut things off quicker
They
than
do
it needed to be.
they do that all the time nowadays. So they're doing that with Better Call Saul, where they're gonna end that.
Well, I don't
And
like it.
they're ruining it. They ruined Star Wars.
This was really obvious, though. I mean, that some of that other, it's kind of like slips away and flits away into the sunlight.
Well,
and
because
you say goodbye.
those things have a lot more fanboys who will defend anything that they choose to do. Whereas this movie is a lot smaller budget, and so it doesn't have a lot of those fanboys. So what did you rate this movie, Safi?
Oh,
This
sorry.
this number 2 movie.
Okay, well, I think my review of this movie is Glass is like eating a meal at Grant Ashat's or Ashat's. He's a 3-star Michelin chef. His restaurant in Chicago, and I'm sure that a lot of you don't know who this is, because I didn't know who it was. But he literally makes these elaborate meals, and he throws them out onto a table with no plates. So it was. If you ever seen that Casper the Friendly Ghost movie, it was the latest one, and there were real people in it, half animated and half real
The
people.
latest one?
And it
I
was a
don't
long
think-
time ago.
I don't think you know what the latest one is, because the I think the latest in terms of how they were released was Casper Meets Wendy.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, the ghosts they come and get breakfast, and when they eat, the food all falls to the floor under the table, and it's just like all a mess.
Oh no, you're thinking of Casper and the Christmas movie, and this is a fantastic movie, and they're all eating. The parents invite these ghosts over because they think that they're actors who did a great job auditioning to be ghosts in A Christmas Carol, and they're sitting there at the table eating the food, and it's all going all over the floor.
Well, there's another one though. That's where the father, his wife has passed away, and he goes all over trying to talk to ghosts, and he has a daughter. And anyway, my point was that the food goes all over the table in like creatively organized piles, and there's no plates or any kind of, people spend a fortune on dishware, on plates, on cutlery, on the glassware, and there's nothing to be seen with that, not even a napkin. And that's what this movie was like. I saw a sample of his work in the latest season of MasterChef, where the contestants were required to do something like he does in a cooking challenge. Needless to say, though, his Chicago restaurant is popular, and the meals are expensive, like $300 or more a pop. And there are a huge waiting list, and his restaurant, like I said, is very popular. And his meals are kind of like, too, if you still don't get what I mean, if you know who Jackson Pollock, a famous artist, paintings, you know his paintings, it's like chaos and discord, but creative, and he gets millions of, well, he's dead now, but his paintings bring millions of dollars. So anyway, just so you know, we've never eaten at this restaurant. Number one, it's too expensive, and two, I don't like picking my food off the table. And that's what this movie is like. To add insult to injury, like I said, the writers threw the actors Jackson McAvoy and Willis and the contents of their two previous movies up in the air and out onto an enormous table in every which way. Plus, they added Sarah Paulson, a new character, in the mix like a last-minute spice to liven up the movie. Ha ha.
She's a one-trick pony for me. I don't think she's a good actress, so I didn't even talk about her.
Then they threw everything off the table and onto the floor, stomping on it, killing the franchise. The story is weak and the ending is even weaker. No offense to Grant Ashatz, by the way. He is a unique chef, and so is Jackson Pollock, the unique artist. But this movie was crap.
Well, the thing about your review is that it's heavily questionable because you're saying that this movie still has artistic merit, and
I'm saying that the characters and what they could have done with them in this movie and in future movies, even if it was like 2 more or 3 more, even 1 more.
Well, because
they could have done a lot more instead of it's like a fizzle. It's like having a firecracker and you think it's going to make a big boom and it goes psst. That's what this was like, and it's just terrible.
Like a snake.
Well, it's irritating. There's so many talented people out there who give anything to have the kind of financial capital and the actors to play in their movie. And they can't get a chance.
These specific actors, because you could have made a fantastic movie with these actors.
Yeah, and so I think it's so unfair to them. I don't like it. And it's unfair to us because, and to people who went and paid to see it. So, what is your food review, Marco?
But you still respect, like, Jackson Pollock and that chef. You still think that they're good artists. But for me, this should be something where you hate the people who did this, or you hate the food itself. But I chose something different, almost like a story form. We went to this restaurant around us called McAllister's Deli for several years. I think like 5 or 6 years. No, 7 years. And all the time we would get the same old thing, and it would be I would get it, and it would be the Big Nasty sandwich with a slice of chocolate cake. And the Big Nasty is a big baguette with roast beef, cheese, and then you dip the sandwich in gravy. And then the chocolate cake is a chocolate spoon cake. It's really cold and it's soft and you can eat it with a spoon. And to me, this movie is unbreakable. It's a strong opening. It ensures a good future of being able to enjoy it over and over again and to remember how great it was, specifically because of the meaty story that was so incredible. And so then, a couple of years later, I can't remember why I chose to do this, but I found on their menu there was this other sandwich called a turkey, a jalapeno,
pepper turkey.
It was a ciabatta bun with turkey, bacon, pepper jack cheese, and honey mustard. And you'd still get gravy on the side, and you dip it in the gravy, and it would be perfect. And it's like, wow, how did I ever miss this sandwich? It's better than the Big Nasty. And then I also tried the cheesecake, and the cheesecake was just as good, if not better, than the chocolate cake. And so, boom. Oh, and also they still have the chocolate cake and the Big Nasty that you can still eat. Boom. That's what they did at the end with Split. They revealed unbreakable character, and they revealed they still had that, and it was a shared universe, and so that was split. It was the everything I've ever eaten there combined. And then, can you guess what Glass is, Safi?
Them taking everything away?
Yeah. 7 years after we've been going there, every single week, by the way, once a week, because it's like a special meal. After 7 years, they took off the menu the Big Nasty, and they took off gravy. So they didn't take off the turkey sandwich, but they took off the gravy, which is essential. And then they took off the chocolate cake, and they took off the cheesecake. And they just threw it away and said, oh, we don't have that anymore. Like, F you. And that's what this movie is. Glass. And guess what they replaced all of that with? Something they call a brookie. A brownie with a cookie mixed together. Ew. Ew. And then they did something else. They released like a chicken cordon bleu sandwich.
No.
Ew. That's this movie. This movie took all the great things off the menu, and the reason why I didn't do like a meal or anything like that is because they acted like this was this big plan that they've had for years, and that this has always been in the works. And look what they did. They just took everything off the menu and destroyed it. Isn't that a good review, Safi?
Yeah.
I bet you never expected me to do that.
No, but it's good.
But you get pretty pissed off when your favorite restaurant takes the only items that you get there off the menu. So.
Well, I think we better wrap it up and come back later, because we're going to do the spoiler review for Dr. Sleep.
And like this video and subscribe to our channel if you want to keep seeing us talk about movies like this. Goodbye, everybody!
Bye.